So now we have horizontal parabolas. So take a moment to just copy all of this down, pause the video, and then I'll explain a little bit of what all of this means. So a couple things. Notice that before we had y equals ax squared plus whatever. Now we have x equals ay squared plus by plus c. So everything is just swapped. The x's and the y's have flipped over. Notice that now the orientation is different. If a is positive, you're going to go to the right. If a is negative, you're going to go to the left. So if I have a parabola that opens up to the right-hand side, that means that a is positive. A is greater than 0. If you have a parabola that opens up to the left, that means a is negative. Another observation, and I'll point it out right now. Notice that this k and this h are also swapped. So when you swap the x's and the y's, you also swap the h and the k. So your axis of symmetry now is going to be y equals negative b over 2a instead of x equals negative b over 2a. And here it will be y equals k, not y equals or x equals h. Vertex, same thing, just everything is opposite. Vertex here is still the same thing, hk, but notice that h here is now on the outside, and k is the one that changes sign, so it's now on the inside. X-intercepts and Y-intercepts are exactly the same. So let's do a couple problems. They are exactly the same thing as parabolas, they're just going in the other direction. So let's do this problem. So let me go to, I think. So let's first start by graphing. So let's say we wanted a graph. And what we want to graph our first one, x equals negative y squared plus 2y plus 8. Now this particular parabola, we know first it's going to be horizontal. We know this is going to be horizontal parabola because we have x equals now as a function of y. So it's going to either go like this, or it's either going to go like this. So one of the first things to look at, let's start off with orientation. The orientation here, our a value is negative, and whenever it's negative, we know that it has to go to the left. So we're going to have a parabola that moves to the left. It's going to look something like this. The second thing that we want to look at is axis of symmetry. Okay, so that is the next thing. So now this axis of symmetry, since we're looking at this column because it looks at this like this form, we're going to use y equals negative b over 2a. So here, y equals negative b over 2a. B in this case is going to be this 2, and a is going to be this negative 1. So you're going to have negative 2 over negative 2, which gives me positive 1. So my axis of symmetry is going to be y equals 1. So that's where exactly you can split it down the middle. The third one is going to be your vertex. Remember the vertex? We just found y equals negative b over 2a. We just found out that was 1. So now all we got to figure out is x. And x is just plugging everything back into the original. So this is going to give us negative 1 squared plus 2 times 1 plus 8. This is going to give me a negative 1 plus 2 plus an 8. So negative 2 plus 1 is going to give me just a 1 plus 8 is going to give me a 9. So my vertex is going to be my x value and then my y value, which is going to be 9, 1. This is my x and this is my y. This is going to be my vertex. And now the fourth thing that we want to look at is we want to look at the y-intercepts. My y-intercepts happen when my x is equal to 0. So we're going to set x equals negative y squared plus 2y plus 8. I'm going to set this equal to 0. Okay. You can easily use a quadratic formula if you'd like. Instead, I'm going to factor. So I'm going to factor out a negative first so I can make this positive. And then I'm going to have 0 is equal to negative. Then I'm going to factor all of this. Y and y. This is going to be a 4. And this is going to be a 2. So this would require the 4 to be a negative and this to be a positive. So my answers are going to be y equals 4 and y equals negative 2. So you're going to have 0, 4, and 0, -2. These are going to be my y-intercepts. And then finally, my x-intercepts. My x-intercepts, that happens when y is equal to 0. Okay, so now I'm going to say y equal to 0. So we have x is equal to -y squared plus 2y plus 8. I'm going to set this equal to 0, and I hope that I don't mess this up this time. And this time I'm going to get a positive 8. So you're going to have 8, 0. This is going to be my x-intercept. And now we're ready to graph. So first, let's plot the vertex, which is going to be 9, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 1. It's going to be right there. My y-intercepts are going to be at 0, 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's one of them, and then 0, -2. Here's the other one. My x-intercept is going to be at 8, 0. So at 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0. So it's going to cross through there. So my parabola, knowing that it's going to go to the left-hand side, is going to look something like this. So here's the vertex going this way. And here it's going to cross this one. It's going to cross here. And it's going to go that way. Okay, and that's going to be my parabola. Okay, so now let's do one last problem. So let's say this was part A, now let's do part B. So let's say we still want to graph x is equal to 2y minus 2 squared plus 1. So let's say we want to do that. So the first thing that we want to do is look at orientation. And if you see, the orientation in this case is positive. So it's positive, so it's going to be opening up to the right. Number 2, the next thing that we want to look at is the axis of symmetry. And in order for us to look at axis of symmetry, we just require that y equals -b over 2a. Now notice that this one is not going to work, because notice what type of problem we have. So let's go back to our little thing. We don't have this thing anymore. Now we have the standard form. So now the axis of symmetry, we don't need to use x equals -b over 2a. We just know that it's going to be y equals k. K in this case is a number in the inside. That's the opposite of that. So now all we got to look at is the number of the inside. The number of the inside is 2. So my axis of symmetry is not going to be y equals -b over 2a. It's going to be y equals 2. That is my axis of symmetry. For number 3, we're looking for the vertex. And if you look, the vertex is going to be h, k. hk, which in this case is going to be, here's the h and here's the k. It's going to be the outside number first and then the inside number. So the outside number first is 1 and the inside number is going to be 2, the opposite of that. Then we're looking for y-intercepts. That's when x is equal to 0. So I'm going to have 0 is equal to 2y minus 2 squared plus 1. I'm going to subtract the 1 over, and I'm going to have -1 is equal to 2y minus 2 squared. And already you can imagine that there's going to be no intercepts, because when we take the square root, you're going to take the square root of a negative number. The square root of a negative number is no solution, so you're going to have no y-intercepts. Alright, and now finally we're going to look at the x-intercepts. That's when y is equal to 0. So we have that, x equals 2y minus 2 squared plus 1. So we're going to say y equal to 0. Okay. And now what we're going to do, we're just going to solve this. So 2, this is going to be -2 squared plus 1. 2, this is going to be 4 plus 1. It's going to give me 8 plus 1, which gives me 9. So it's going to be 9, 0. That's going to be my x-intercept. And all we got to do now is just graph this thing. Vertex is at 1, 2. So here's 1 and then 2. That's going to be my vertex. I don't have any y-intercepts, but I do have some x-intercepts. I have it at 9, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, this is one of my intercepts. So it's going to go this way because we know that it's opening up to the right, and it's going to go the other way. Now, because the axis of symmetry is at y equals 2, y equals 2 is right here. So notice that this is where it kind of divides it in the middle. So because 2 units away is at 9, so 2 units away at 4 is also going to be at 9. So you don't need to do this step if you don't want to, but it is usually really helpful. That's what the axis of symmetry is there for, just to show you where exactly is it symmetrical. Okay, and that's basically it for these. You will be expected to at least graph one of these using all of these different steps. So it's either going to be horizontal or it's either going to be vertical.